Is it wrong for my husband to demand sexy time even though I don't want to? Disclaimer, this is not my story time instead of me on Instagram. My husband and I have been married for 6 months. Unfortunately, our marriage was arranged by our families, and so far I have not been able to fall in love with him. I come from a very strict religion. My family and my husband's family believe that I should obey him, and it's been really hard for me to adjust to this. Before getting married, I had more freedom, but now I'm mostly home all day waiting for my husband to come home. I cook all of his meals and serve him while he's eating, and even if I'm not eating, he expects me to be sitting there with him. My husband is a very rich man, so he lets me go shopping whenever I want, but that's something I can't even do by myself. He always sends someone with me to go shopping, so I take advantage and buy really expensive designer things. Sometimes I spend $5,000 on a shopping day. This really never seems to bother him. Another thing I don't really like is that he rarely ever speaks to me. We have small talk every now and then, but we don't talk about important things, especially before we got married. We'd only seen each other a few times. I thought we'd have a really good relationship and be friends, but no. Sometimes I'll ask him what his day was like, and he just says it was fine. Other times I try to talk to him about his job, but he never really gives me a full answer. So honestly, I don't even know what he does. But my biggest problem with him is something else. He demands, you know what, sexy time. And I never really want to. I'm not in love with him and I'm not really attracted to him. On our wedding night, my family really pressured me into doing it. And it was horrible. And now whenever he wants it, I defend myself and it turns into a big fight. He even called my parents to complain. Part 2 is it wrong that my husband demands sexy time even though I don't want to? Disclaimer, this is not my story time instead of me on Instagram. That's when he called my parents and complained to them that I wouldn't do it with him. He took me to my parents' house the following day. My dad was really angry with me and told me that I needed to obey my husband. I told him I never wanted to get married to begin with and that I didn't love him or was even attracted to him. My parents clearly didn't understand me. I went home and my husband basically coerced me into doing it. And it's not even like it's fun. He doesn't do anything to please me. It's all about him when we're doing it. One night he asked me to do it and I refused. He got so angry he told me that he didn't need to ask for my permission. I basically punched him in the face and since then he hasn't touched me. But then I felt so responsible and I actually apologized. Even though I was just defending myself. Everything's back to the way it was. I just have to do whatever he wants. All our friends think that we're incredibly happy. I couldn't take it anymore, so I opened up to one of my best friends. I told her everything that was going on and she told me that I should just leave my husband. But with my religion and my family, it would be really hard to do that. Then she told me that I should just take on a lover. And the idea kind of stuck in my head. Let me backtrack a little. When I was in college, I had met somebody, but nothing ever happened because I knew my parents wouldn't accept him. I reached out to him on Facebook and asked him how he was, and he happened to be arriving to my city soon. I asked him if he wanted to meet up and he said yes. And what happens next is crazy. When we saw each other, we instantly fell in love. Part 3 is up. Is it wrong for my husband to demand sexy time even though I don't want to? Disclaimers, no, my story time instead of me on Instagram. When I saw my old friend, it was like love at first sight. I could tell he was so happy to see me and we talked for hours. And the only reason I was able to go was because I told my husband that I was going to hang out with my best friend. So my best friend wasn't actually even with me. After that, my friend, let's call him Rob and I hung out a few more times, and eventually I opened up to him about what was happening with my husband. I explained to him I had an arranged marriage and that I wasn't in love with my husband. He also told me that I should divorce my husband, but then he told me why. He said that since college he's always had feelings for me. That means he's had feelings for me for 3 years. Well, long story short, he's my lover now, and nobody knows. Only my best friend. We see each other 3 times a week. I always go when my husband's at work, and I tell him that I'm going to be with my best friend. And Rob and I meet at his place. And I'm the happiest I've ever been. I know that this is totally wrong, but I'm finally living. Of course, my husband still demands you know what, but I'm able to bear it now because I know I have someone else who actually loves me. I know this can't last forever though. I wish I could just fall in love with my husband, but it's not that easy. He's always so demanding and he doesn't understand that his behavior is not normal. And I barely speak to my parents now. I've only been seeing Rob for a month, but he's got to go back home eventually. What should I do?
Am I the asshole for describing my wife as fat to our young children?
Yes, 100%. Yes, you don't have to read anything else. Woo!
You wouldn't have to read. We could just go.
My wife, 41, and myself, 44 male, both work in education and believe in properly explaining things to our children. 4 female, 5 male. We have agreed to never use, quote, because I said so, reasoning with them. My wife is unfortunately around 3 stones overweight. Her weight has crept up gradually since having the kids, and I don't think she has even been aware of this gain until I gently raised the subject with her last year. She agreed she needs to remedy this. Since then, we have worked together to shift the excess weight, and I'm proud to say she's lost around 10 pounds. But she still has a lot of work to do to reach her target weight. She is best at sticking to her diet if there is no temptation around. So for Easter, I got her flowers instead of an egg. She seemed happy with this. Then, yesterday, my children were arguing over a missing Easter egg, each accusing the other of eating it. I knew instantly what had happened. I asked my wife to tell the children where the egg, which was quite big, had recently gone, and she admitted she had eaten it. My son, whose egg it was very upset and confused and asked his mom why she had eaten it. My wife replied that she would replace it, which would be impossible as it's now after Easter.
Because
It's on clearance.
Kids care.
No, it's on clearance. It'll be even cheaper.
I pointed out that she has not answered the question our son had asked. He was very upset and kept asking why she had stolen his egg. I felt it was unfair she hadn't properly answered this, as he was getting more distressed. My wife completely threw me under the bus here and said, quote, because I wanted a chocolate, but daddy didn't get me an egg. They already know the importance of healthy eating, so I explained that mommy was not wanting to eat too much sugar. Several, but why questions down the line, and I finally said, quote, because mommy is fat and she needs to work on this by not eating sweeties.
Oh my God.
I used the word fat because my sister is fat and always says it is not a shameful thing and she prefers to be described this way. She says to not use the word implies there's something wrong with being fat. I probably was an asshole to presume my wife would feel the same way about this term, and I wonder if I should have said overweight instead. My wife hasn't spoken to me since this and has seemed very upset. I feel terrible for upsetting her, but I think she was wrong to have taken our little boy's Easter egg without asking, and wrong to have blamed me for her actions. I regret upsetting her and possibly using the wrong terminology, but I had run out of ways to explain to the children why I hadn't bought my wife an egg. But I do feel I might be an asshole for upsetting my wife.
Oh, you are,
an
bro.
asshole. Oh,
How about, you know what? I forgot.
How
It's
about-
my fault.
I thought your mom would really love flowers more.
Or I forgot. What?
Because he didn't want to be, he didn't want to take any responsibility.
No,
he wanted to be on her. She was responsible for eating the egg. Your mom's fat. She shouldn't have eaten your fucking egg.
Am I wrong for telling my dad that I don't want him walking my cousin down the aisle? My 16 female, cousin 23 female, is getting married in November. She's the only daughter of my dad's brother. For some context, we don't get along at all. She bullied me while growing up, and after my uncle passed away, she tried to steal my dad. He never allowed it and made time for both of us, but to this day, my cousin still says that I was a bitch for not letting her have a parental figure, which is not true. Neither my mom or dad allowed her to mistreat me or abuse me, but there's so much a parent can do. She used to do it while they weren't watching too, and I was too afraid to tell them because I could see how important it was for my dad to have a relationship with her, so I kept quiet. While the bullying decreased, it never went away. She still makes fun of me because I'm single, because I'm dumb, etc. When she got engaged, she excluded me from the bridal party, and it wouldn't matter if it wasn't for the fact that she included